Hi, Jon.
Hey, Patrick.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, same here, man.
Nice. Yeah, good. I'm at home. And you are at home as well, or at your office?
Yeah. I've got a office space just around the corner from my house. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So it's good to
So,
talk to a South African again. I'm going to Hillsong Amsterdam, where there are a lot of South Africans actually. So,
okay.
yeah, over the years.
Yeah, my cousin actually lives in Amsterdam. So
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah. Yeah, he got married to a local girl there, so he now lives there with his family.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that a lot of South Africans come to Holland because the languages are quite similar, but also not really. It's
Yeah, I think the one bad habit we both have is we speak very fast in our native language. So in my Afrikaans language, I speak very fast.
yeah.
And you guys, when you speak, it's very fast, so we can't follow.
Yeah.
Just like when I speak Afrikaans, you won't follow, so
Yeah.
so yeah, even though it's supposed to be so close, it just doesn't work.
That's true. When I read it, it's already a lot more easier to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some similarities in the words that you'll pick up. So eventually you'll find the gist of it, but yeah, it's not always that easy either.
No, speaking is not as convenient. So I'm glad we can do it in English. And
Yeah.
I'm just so curious about your story. You spent 14 days on the ICU. Can you start from the beginning? How you ended up there?
Yeah, man. So I obviously contracted COVID, and then my first 8-9 days at home was just terrible. My wife got it at the same time, and she had symptoms for about 3-4 days, and then it was over and done with, and I thought I'll be fine because I'm so fit. I'm a mountain biker and I'm healthy, so I thought for me it's going to be a breeze. My actual words to my wife when I tested positive was, "Oh, finally, now I can just get this over and done with." Famous last words,
Yeah.
And so then man, I just suffered. I had so much pain and body ache, and my fever, I couldn't break it for 6-7 days continuously. I couldn't break my fever, and then I started having terrible diarrhea, and I couldn't stop that. And then on the 9th evening, I just completely lost my bowels, and I couldn't keep it. And then I realized there's problems here. So I phoned my cousin, who's a medical specialist, and I told him, "Cuz, I've got some problems here, man." And I explained to him, and he said, "You need to get to the hospital ASAP," because he was afraid that I'm going to go into dehydration and my body's going to go into shock. I got to the hospital, and he made sure that his best friend, like his brother almost, he's a physician, and he was waiting for me at the hospital. So I was very blessed to be in good hands from the start. It's just like God orchestrated everything in advance. Everybody that was involved in my entire journey was just miraculously placed on that journey to help me. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just got into a normal ward in the hospital, and for the first 2 days, and I thought they're just going to sort out my diarrhea pretty much and hydration, and that's it. And it seemed to be fine. So I thought, I'm awesome, I'm going home. And then all of a sudden, my saturation levels just started to drop, and they put me on low flow oxygen in the normal ward. And within hours, they admitted me to ICU, having to put me on high flow oxygen. Now, at that time, I didn't know what any of this meant. I didn't know about oxygen, saturation levels, nothing, man. So there I was in ICU, and wow, what a different experience. I was, at that point, ICU was full. I took the last bed in ICU in that hospital.
Oh.
and and I was the only person awake. Everybody else in ICU was on ventilators and induced a coma. And so that was a different experience lying there. And I thought I was fine. I mean, I had the high flow oxygen. I felt okay, and I thought I'm just going to be here for a couple of days, and then I'm going home, not knowing what this is all about and what's happening at that point. And it seemed fine. And even the specialist thought that my physician looking after me thought, well, you know, I'll be able to be fine. Because that was like on the Tuesday, and the Friday was my boy's birthday. So yeah, I was going home, man. I've got to be there for his birthday. Bless, because my two boys went to sleep that night at home, and I was still there. And the next morning they woke up and Dad was gone. So a crazy journey for them to not see me for 2 months, especially at the age that they had. You know, the one is 2 years old, the other one was 5, and so it was quite traumatic for them as well, the entire journey. But yeah, so what happened then, I thought I was okay my first couple of days in ICU, and they thought I was going home as well. It should be okay. I should get out of ICU in a couple of days and then go home. And then on the 4th night in ICU, it was basically 16 minutes past 3. Everything went black, and I stopped breathing, and my brain shut down from lack of oxygen.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's when things took a turn. They obviously managed to get me back, and medically at that point, from the X-rays they took, my lungs, and I just emailed you a couple of pictures to your email address. So you can have a look at it. So that picture that you're looking at there of my lungs, you'll see a healthy lung should be all, you know, that dark black color. Then your lungs are healthy and clear and clean. You'll see there my lungs is white. Apart from the left lung, there's a round black spot. Now that's not a healthy lung. That's actually an air bubble in my lung. That's not supposed to be there. So medically at that point, right there, I have basically 0 functional lung tissue. So medically speaking, at that point, I should not be alive. There should not be any oxygen able to get through my lungs into my bloodstream to go to my main organs.
I understand.
So that's my lungs. So life and those lungs can't be used in the same sentence.
No.
And but I didn't know that, and they didn't tell me that either. So they were waiting for me every minute just to go into respiratory and cardiac arrest and die. For the last 4 months of my life. Because what you see there, the white that you see in those lungs, it's called pulmonary fibrosis. Now, pulmonary fibrosis, it's dead lung tissue, and it's impossible medically for that to heal. It's dead tissue, and it just gets worse and worse. You know, so once you've got pulmonary fibrosis in your lungs, it gets over time worse and worse. So when you initially in stage 1 pulmonary fibrosis, they give you about 3 years to live. Okay. When you're in stage 4, they give you less than 12 months to live. Well, the condition my lungs obviously are in there, that's way past level 4. You should not be able to live. So let's call it stage 4, and I have less than 12 months to live. That's what those lungs represent, and the pulmonary fibrosis in there. And medically speaking, it's impossible to be cured. I mean, it's never happened ever in the medicine world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So there I was then in ICU. They got me back, and I just realized I had to start fighting for my life. Everything just, got turned around. But I didn't know what I've just shared with you, the condition of my lungs. I never knew about it. I didn't know about that until 4 weeks ago.
Whoa. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why so?
They never ever shared that with me. because for some reason, I guess it's like the bumblebee, you know, scientifically the bumblebee should not be able to fly, you know, but it doesn't know it, so it just keeps flying. It does. I didn't know that was the condition of my lungs and is the condition of my lungs, but somehow I kept breathing and I'm still breathing. So they didn't share it with me, obviously, with my specialist either, and he's a great man of God as well, my specialist, my physician that's working with me. So he just told me everything that I needed to know to keep encouraging me, but he didn't tell me any of that. What my condition of my lungs was, that I've got less than, medically speaking, 12 months to live. So none of that was ever shared with me. So I just kept going. I just kept fighting. Yeah, and somehow I managed to be on less and less oxygen in ICU. Those 2 weeks in ICU, I never closed an eye. It's impossible to sleep. For the reason how I was breathing, I mean, you breathe so shallow to fight for every breath. It's literally like you breathe like that just to, and you try and sustain that for a minute, and you'll be so knackered and tired and drained, you just have to breathe again. It's so even just for 6 weeks, I was breathing like that constantly. So even that in itself, medically, I should physically not be able to survive that, but somehow I did.
Wow.
That's why they put people under induced coma, because you can't sustain breathing like that for any period of time. I mean, you can try it for 1 minute, you won't keep on doing it. I was doing that for 6 weeks constantly.
And were you sleeping as well, or?
No, my first 2 weeks in ICU, I did not close an eyelid.
Whoa.
I was awake constantly.
Whoa.
So you've got on your, I mean, you've got all these monitors attached to your body, front and back. I mean, you just forgive my language, but you just think about farting and an alarm goes off. Okay, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the nurses rush to you, and you've got a blood pressure attached to your arm 24/7 that goes off every single hour. So that will wake you up every hour if you thought you were going to sleep anyway. But just because of how I was breathing, I could not sleep.
Yeah. And so because you maintained this way of breathing, you also weren't put on the ventilator.
No, because I think at that point they realized if they were to put me on a ventilator, it's all over. I mean, the condition of my lungs, it's impossible for me to breathe.
Whoa.
So being on a ventilator will just be, you know, sending me to my grave instantly. So they rather took the risk that for some reason, miraculously, I am breathing. So let's just see how long this guy can sustain that, and maybe let's hope for the best, you know.
Yeah.
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 And somehow I did. But I guess that's the thing, because when I stopped breathing during that time, I actually had an out-of-body encounter with Jesus.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was some of the darkest places I've been in my entire life, but also the most powerful experience I've had in my entire life. Changed my life around. And he told me that I was going to walk out of the hospital.
Wow.
So I guess that's like the bumblebee who doesn't know he can't fly, so he keeps flying. I didn't know that was my lungs, but Jesus told me I'm going to walk out of this. So I just kept breathing, man.
Yeah. But how was this experience with Jesus? What was it like? A dream? Was it like more realistic than you ever imagined?
Patrick, that is as real as it gets. It's not a dream. It's as real as you and I talking to each other now. And so I'm not going to go in detail of how it all happened and how I was lying on the bed and I felt myself sort of distant out of my body and having visions of what was happening there. But long story short, I eventually, when I stopped breathing and everything went black, I found myself just, everything was enlightened and I was in a glass box drifting off. And I realized things aren't the way it's supposed to be, and I realized I'm on my way out. And I've got my 2 boys and my wife at home. You know, this can't happen. So I tried everything within myself to break this box, to kick it, hit it, smash it, And it just didn't happen. And the next minute, I just heard this voice, "Who do you think I am?" And I was so consumed by getting out of this box and breaking this thing, because I've got to get back, man. This can't happen. You know, my boys, my life. It's that I didn't even pay attention to it. You know, I'm just saying, when I heard it, I just carried on. I heard the question again, "Who do you think I am?" And this time I said, well, I just knew it myself, it's Jesus. And I said, I know it's you, Jesus. And but this can't happen. I mean, well, what's going on here? You know, I've got my, and then I tried everything in my might and power to control the situation, to try and manipulate Jesus just to send me back, you know, saying that, I mean, you are this God of love. I mean, I'm sure it's not your will for my two boys to grow up without a father. And I tried everything that I can to convince him, to manipulate him, call it what you want. And he just flat ignored me. It was the most horrible experience ever. And then the next minute, he asked me again, "Who do you think I am?" And when he asked that, it was like, it's not the volume of a speaker that went up, it was the power in that voice that just went like that. And I was knocked down. Wow. And I said, I know you, Jesus. And he said, "No, I'm Jesus Almighty." He said, "But that's the problem. You have become so used to me that for you, I'm just Jesus, like your buddy, like your other friends out there." He said, "Johan, even if I tell you that I have the power, I have in my hands the sun. I tell the sun when to rise and when to set." Like he spoke to Job. He said, "I tell the waves where they can break and can't break and where they can't go any further." And he said, "But even if I tell you that, it doesn't even move you because you've become so used to me." Whoa. That's why you speak about this Jesus. I'm Jesus Almighty. And he said, "Johan, every single breath that you are fighting for right now is in my power, a gift within my almighty power to give to you or to take away." And he said, "Do I have your attention now?" Wow. And I was gone. And I just realized how powerless I am, how out of control I am. And then he kept quiet. And then all of a sudden, I just started having these flashes of my life, of the most significant instances in my life where I denied, disobeyed, what do you want to call it, Jesus. Where he laid on my heart and told me to do something. And I said, "Don't worry, I've got this." And I did something else. One flash after the other. And when that happened, it was the darkest places I've been in my entire life, because I realized this is not going to end well. Here was me thinking that my life is sorted out, I'm going to heaven. And I realized in that moment, I'm not. Oh, yeah. When he was done with those flashes, which felt like eternity, but it was obviously quick, he said, "Johan, if you deny me on earth, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven." And I realized this was it. I had my chance. Nothing I can do now. You feel so vulnerable, so exposed, so out of control, powerless. I can't explain it to you. The humility that you experience in that moment is something that we do not fathom one bit. We talk about humility, but we don't know what that is. Yeah. And then he told me, he said, "Johan, the path to heaven is this narrow, not as narrow as you guys think it is. It is this narrow. He said it's a journey of true obedience, complete obedience, of submitting your picture of life, of what you think your life should be like, submitting that to me, and believing with your whole heart that I am in control. And from that place, every single day, living in complete obedience towards me. And I said, but Jesus, surely I'm a human being, I'm going to make mistakes. I mean, don't we like to use that so often? And he said, Johan, but that's fine. Your mistakes, your sins doesn't even bother me one bit. It makes no difference to me. He said, it's not about your sins or your mistakes that you make. It's about the attitude of your heart. It's of having an attitude of obedience to me, because if you have a true attitude of obedience to me every single day with everything that you do, that's what matters. Because that shows your heart towards me, that you're living for me from a place where you completely trust me, that you know I am who I said I am, and that you know I'm capable of doing what I said I will do. That is a true heart of obedience towards me. And from that place, you will get life, eternal life. From that place, you are free to be who I created you to be. From that place, you are free to be led by me. And he said, Johan, so I'm going to give you a choice. I'm going to give you a choice to choose to live that life, and I'll send you back. Or you know where you're off to. He said, but take your time before you make the choice, because I see your heart. And I took a while, and I was just totally convinced within myself, and I said, I'm in. And he sent me back.
Wow.
Changed my entire life, how I live now, living from a heavenly perspective with the attitude of obedience. Changed my life completely. How I make choices every single day, how I live my life in terms of waking up 4 o'clock in the mornings and say, Jesus, here's my day. But I give it over to you. You're in control. This meeting that I'm going to have today with Patrick, if it's your will for us to have it, let it take place and guide that conversation. If it's not your will, then close the doors. Let it not take place.
Yeah.
Because your will be not mine.
Yeah.
And I put every single thing that I know is going to happen in my day, I put it before him like that. Your will be done, not mine. You're in control, not me. I just want to be obedient.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's how I live my life now.
Yeah. And do you feel, because when, from my perspective, if I stand up 4 o'clock every day, it would be, I don't know if that would be for me, like, so to say, right? To be to live such a way as a Christian. But is that something that takes an effort for you, or is that something you now also feel more energized to do?
Yeah, so for me, initially, don't get me wrong, after that experience with him, I was obviously, so I had that encounter with him, and it's a bit different to where I'm now to when I was still ICU. Back then, I was still fighting for every single breath. So I didn't sleep. There was no waking up 4 o'clock. I was awake all the time. Okay. So my journey in hospital carried on for, after that evening, another 2 months, where there were other instances. I'm going to give you an example. So when I eventually got out of ICU, my first night out of ICU, when I was in high care, in the high care ward, which is just outside of ICU, I actually had a cough episode. Now you try to breathe like I was breathing and coughing at the same time. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And I had a cough episode for an hour and a half. I should have died.
Whoa.
I didn't, because I knew he told me I'm going to walk out of the hospital. So when I initially started having that cough episode and I looked at my circumstances, according to me, everything was wrong. This is it. Okay. But then I remembered, he said, you're going to walk out of here, and Johan, I'm in control, not you. So surrender. And when I did that, such enormous peace came over me. Again, it's the peace that God speaks about, not the peace that we speak about on earth. It's completely different. That peace that came over me was so profound, knowing that he's in control, not me. And therefore, whatever's happening here, he's in control. And he said, I'll walk out of here. So I trust that. And I just gave over. For some reason, during that cough episode that carried on for over an hour, I was able to breathe. Miraculously. How it happened, I don't know, but I did.
Wow. Yeah.
And then after that cough episode, the next morning, the physician that came and listened to my lungs said, Johan, what happened to you? Because your lungs are so much better this morning. So much of the inflammation phlegm got out during that process.
Yeah.
So I was better, even though my lungs were still consumed and filled with that pulmonary fibrosis that I don't know about. What he was listening to, for some reason, sounded better. And then 4 nights after that, 10 o'clock at night, all of a sudden, my entire upper body, front and back, just went into spasm. Now, you try to breathe with a small spasm in your back, it knocks the breath out of you. My entire upper body went into spasm, front and back. So it's impossible for you to breathe again. It took them 45 minutes to get medicine ready for me to put in my body, for my muscles to start relaxing. But again, somehow, instantly this time, I just had that peace. I knew he's in control. And through that entire episode, I was breathing.
Wow.
And again, the staff just couldn't believe it. But what they realized then is the following day, only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they realized the reason why everything in my body, upper body, went into spasm was because my left lung had collapsed. But by that time, when they found out about it the next day, only 3 o'clock, my left lung had pushed my heart all the way to where my right lung is, and my right lung was already being crushed against my ribs. Yeah, and my whole left lung was just shriveled up like that.
And then?
So then for some reason, they wanted to operate on me. That's when they realized in my left lung, there's this massive air bubble that's causing my lung to collapse. And, but it was sitting at a terrible place. It was sitting right next to my spine. So they couldn't just put a normal drain in. They initially put a normal drain in to get the fluid out of my lung. And I sent you that picture as well. They got, in a couple of days, 850 milliliters of blood and fluid out of my lung.
Oh, yeah. It's a pretty nasty picture. Yeah.
But that air bubble was still there, and they couldn't sort of access that air bubble to get that out with a normal drain. They had to do surgery. And that was a whole amazing experience as well. How eventually overnight, for some reason, prior to the surgery, my lung just started to expand, and they held off on the surgery to see what was going to happen with my lung. And the pulmonologist came to me and said, Johan, it's just amazing. I decided to call off the surgery because your lungs sort of expanded overnight. And I just want to share with you that since COVID started, the position where that bubble sits in your lung, every single time that has happened, we had to do surgery because that bubble keeps the lung on to collapse the whole time. So we needed to, otherwise the person will die. But to date, we've never ever been able to have a successful surgery on a bubble that sits there. We've had more complications afterwards than before.
Oh.
But for some miraculous reason, your lung just started to expand overnight, so we held off.
Whoa.
And they didn't do it. So now for some different news. So 4 weeks ago, Patrick, I went for my first CT scan since having left hospital. And when I walked into my physician's room, he was in tears. And I thought, oh man, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
And that's when he shared with me what my lungs used to look like, the picture you see there, and how they were waiting for me every single minute just to go into respiratory and cardiac arrest, because medically I should be dead. You can't breathe. It's impossible. No oxygen can get through your lungs like that.
Yeah.
And he said, but Johan, your lungs are clean. The pulmonary fibrosis is gone. He said it's the most beautiful miracle that he has seen in his entire career.
Wow.
So what I have today, sitting here with clean, physically a new pair of lungs, is medically impossible.
Yeah.
And that's when they were so happy to share with me all this truth about my lungs that I was sharing with you initially, that they never shared with me. Yeah.
Wow. How was that for you? Because that's already after your first testimony, actually, right? That the message that went viral on LinkedIn, that was 3 months ago, I believe.
Yeah. So when I sent that message on LinkedIn, it was, I didn't know about my lungs. For me, it was just that I knew that they told me at that point, when I was off oxygen, for somehow a reason, my oxygen got less and less, and I managed to get off oxygen. And when I got off oxygen, my cousin, who's also a specialist, told me that they just thought that will never ever be possible, but they still didn't share the truth with me, because in their minds, the condition of my lungs was still that they were waiting for me every second to stop breathing.
Yeah.
And that's where they shared with me then that they thought, you know, I'm going to be in oxygen for the rest of my life, and that I'll never be able to walk with my boys in the streets. None of that. But that was because I came off oxygen, and according to them, my lungs from the last CT scan was obviously still in the condition that I shared with you, that it's impossible for me to live.
Yeah.
But they still didn't share it with me. So I didn't know it. So that LinkedIn message for me was just from the basis that I knew that, according to them, I was supposed to be on oxygen for the rest of my life, but I'm off and I'm walking, and I'm not supposed to be able to walk. So for me, that was awesome in itself, not knowing this insane miracle that Jesus just did on my lungs.
Yeah. Wow. And so your this medical guy was crying, you told me, and how did other physicians and doctors react? How did it change them?
So my physician and my cousin are the two most beautiful children of God that you'll meet. So for them, it was just such a, how can I call it, amazing experience for them, knowing that this, Jesus is alive. I mean, you can't get him being more alive and almighty than what just happened right in front of them. Like my physician said, I mean, he was in tears. He just said he's just so grateful and thankful that he was able to give a father back to his two boys.
Yeah. Wow.
I then bumped into a physician as well, who's not a believer. Showed him the picture of my lungs, and he just looked at the picture, the one that I've just sent you. He just looked at it, and he looked at me, and I could see he's confused. I could see it's just not, he's uncomfortable, because he realizes that picture, you should not be able to be alive. And then I shared with him the image of my lungs now, which is crystal clear, and he said, no. He just got so uncomfortable that he couldn't say anything. It was just like, well, this must be some miracle somehow, because this is, and I could see he was just so, I don't know if I need to use the word bothered or something, but he was so confronted by the situation that he now knows that what he's been believing his entire life, this doesn't sit right.
Wow, that's amazing.
I've now, in the last 2 weeks, I did, because part of what I do, I'm a speaker as well at conferences and companies, and where I do talks. And so I've designed this one talk where I talk about my previous work that I did still in relationships and leadership, and I bring it into my ICU experience and hospital experience, and help people to understand how you need to change your life to be empowered in life and be more successful from that space. And then I bring some of this in that I've just shared with you. And every single time in both those talks that I've done to date at big business meetings, conferences, I had grown men afterwards come to me, being so confronted by some of this in tears.
Yeah.
That their lives are just, that it can't be the same anymore. You know, you're confronted with this almightiness that we ignore, and realizing that it's something that I've got to deal with. I can't ignore it anymore. I can't just carry on with life like I used to, thinking it's all going to be okay, because it's not.
No.
You know?
Wow. Yeah, I felt something of that. Yeah, we said urgency, the urgence when you told that part about Jesus Almighty. It's a I hear that a lot, especially that more sometimes evangelical Christians are acting, or I'm myself, is like you have Jesus in your back pocket, and you can use it. You can use him for when he's necessary, and
Yep, that's true.
And that's something. Yeah. So why did you think you were given a second chance?
Great question, Patrick. And what I can tell you is I did nothing to deserve it. So do I have an answer for you? No, because the way I lived my life prior to that incident, I thought I ticked all the boxes.
Yeah,
I believed in him. You know, I believed in him. I was happy to talk about him, telling people I do believe in him, and try to live character-wise my life in the fruits of the Spirit. But like Jesus said, no tick boxes is going to get you to heaven.
Yeah, that's what your story makes your story so scary, I think, for other Christians and for me as well.
Here's the thing, Patrick. Yes, my wife, when I shared it with her, she was upset initially because, so you're telling me I'm not going to heaven either. And I told her, love, listen, it's not my place to say that. But if my message gets you to a place where you are now willing to actually go to Jesus and say, Jesus Almighty, where am I with you? What a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
If my message, it should be not a message of fear. This should be a message of, let's call it should liberate you. It should excite you. It should be awesome for you to know that, wow, man, now I understand something that I never understood before. I mean, it's my heart's desire wanting to go to heaven. And I'm just glad to get this wake-up call. Not because I'm a bad person, just because my understanding was misplaced.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you a bad person. Jesus Almighty is so excited when you actually wake up.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you were, he's excited when you actually truly turn to him and having that conversation with him about what does a life with the attitude of true obedience look like to him.
Yeah. And have you discovered more of that life of obedience? What are the
Oh, massive. It's Patrick, it's changed my life in terms of how I look at life now when I make decisions. And for instance, in my head, I've got this picture of what my life should look like. This is the house I should live in, and you know, I'm working and I'm doing well, and all this stuff needs to happen. And all of that has been confronted to the place now where whatever happens in my life, like now for some reason, we had to leave our house, and I've got more than enough money to just go outside and buy me any house that I want to. But yet for some reason, Jesus closed all those doors. And he told us to move in with my mother-in-law. Can you believe it?
Whoa.
But I've got a wife and 2 boys, so in my picture in it, I'm the provider. I've got everything that I need. I should get them in our own house. But he said no. And therefore, I'm now for 4 days now already in my mother-in-law's house, knowing that he's in control. And if he's in control and he said this house should be, then that's how it should be. And I've got complete peace with that.
Nice.
Where I never ever would have done it before. I would have not even spoken to it. I would have said, oh, Jesus, can you please sort this out, get us a house? And I was, amen. I would go out of my own power and sort everything out myself. Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But this time, I'm like, from a heavenly perspective. From a heavenly perspective, I take my picture of life, I put it aside. I say, Jesus, don't get me wrong. This is what I would love it to be like and look like. But I give it to you.
Yeah.
You are in control, not me. And I trust you with it, that you are in control, because I am before you with an attitude of complete obedience. So therefore, I know that you will open the doors that need to open and close the doors that need to close. And that's all I need to know. I trust you with that. I truly trust you.
Yeah.
And the peace that comes with that is just, like I said, phenomenal. It's a heavenly peace, not the peace that we talk about. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. But and how then do you get the confirmation that the Lord is giving direction? Is that still this hearable voice, or is it more through scripture?
So now it's from a place of, so I'm obviously a place where I'm looking at houses to buy. I'm even looking at houses to rent, because if I need to buy or rent, he knows what needs to happen, not me. So it's my responsibility to go knock on doors, and he'll open where it needs to be open and close where it needs to be closed. So we've already made 2 offers on houses where we were the biggest offer on the house and a cash offer. And we didn't get it.
Yeah.
Why? Because I tell Jesus, if it is not your will, close the door. Let it not happen. Because here's the thing. He's almighty. So the minute I go, what if I only did that, or maybe did that, then maybe then we would have got the offer. The minute I go down that route, I take his almightiness away from me.
Yeah.
And that is what we miss. We don't realize, we don't talk about his almightiness, because we start to take control.
Yeah.
Where if you truly believe in his almightiness, then you're happy to say, Jesus, if this house is for us to buy, I'm making this offer because I need to take responsibility for my life. I need to knock on doors. He told me, go knock and I'll open. So I'm knocking on the door by making an offer. If it's not your will for us, close it. And he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Because he is almighty. So I can only do what I can do humanly, and that's go and take responsibility for my life and my family's life and knock on every door that I can.
Yeah.
And trusting him that if it's not his will, he'll close the door. And then not for me to go into my own power and try and force it open like we do. Because then I'm taking him and I'm saying, okay, Jesus, you just go wait there. I've got this.
Yeah.
And that is where you go and you deny him. Where you're not obedient. And he said, my son, it's written in the Bible so clearly, if you do that, then I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. Don't then come to me and cry, but Jesus, I save people and I heal people in your name. I even drove out demons in your name. He said, no, I don't know you, get away from me. We need to become aware.
Yeah.
We need to wake up.
Wow. Yeah. So
I do this one talk now from, whether it's from a secular or Christian approach at companies, where I speak about how to breathe life into your life.
And what are the responses from companies that aren't Christian?
So I've got a, interesting enough, I've got a number of American companies who I've spoken to, and CEOs and owners of companies there that I've spoken to, and Christian people that are happy to talk about and discuss it. The companies that, if you go to another big corporate company where everything needs to be secular because they need to respect every religion and everything there, then I have it secular. But the principles that I share now, I share it, is still everything, the godly principles. And then afterwards, I'll have people come to me and ask the questions, then they open that door. And when they ask the question, open the door, well, then I can just let it flow, man.
Well,
I've even had one person at the one talk that I did ask me that question while I was still standing on the stage. But because that person asked the question, he opened the door and I could speak. And then I had people come to me afterwards and talk to me about it. They were so confronted by this. You can see their worlds are turned upside down. But they realized this is the truth, man. How can this happen? I mean, this guy medically, and the nice thing about that actual evening, my physician was actually there as well. So I called him out and he could confirm from a medical perspective. And I've now obviously got all the details. So when I do my talks, I include the medical details, facts. And, you know, then people who don't believe or maybe don't want to believe are so confronted with this that it's just actually a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's really nice, that the dual approach, medical and and your own story. Yeah, well, it's so interesting. But when you look back, what was your heart like then? Was it really that bad beforehand?
No, it wasn't. But here's the thing. It was, like you say, in my back pocket. And that's not good enough. No good intentions is going to get you to heaven.
No.
Whether you like it or not, that's not your call to make.
No.
So I got the biggest wake-up call of my life, and I'm just grateful that I got a second chance. What if yours end today and you don't get a second chance?
Yeah.
What if you, like me, stood there before the gates of heaven, being judged by Jesus, giving all those images of where I denied him, and he doesn't give you that second chance? What then?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take that chance again. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So if you want to ask me what motivates me to now, when I wake up 4 o'clock, not to try and fall asleep again, but to then, with all the peace in my heart, lie there and start talking with Jesus, it's just beautiful and it's awesome. It's initially, it was, I need to make an effort to do it because everything inside you wants to just try and fall asleep again.
Yeah.
But I just realized that it's the cost is just too great.
It's too much time wasted.
Exactly. And here's the amazing thing. When you try and fall asleep again, sometimes you struggle so much that you wake up even more tired than, well, I would lie there and I'll have my conversation with him. I'll put my whole day that I know, I'll go through my calendar, all my meetings, I'll put it before his feet and give it over to him, knowing he's control. And then when I'm done, I say, but Jesus, if there's anything that's going to happen today that I need to know of and I don't know, please share with me. And tell me what I need to do to be obedient in that situation. And I will lie there with eagerness, waiting to hear from him. Yeah. And 9 out of 10 times, I'll just peacefully fall asleep again and wake up so much more rejuvenated than ever before.
Nice.
And why do I wake up that rejuvenated? Because I wake up with so much peace, because I know my whole day has been submitted to him and I know he's in control. So I've got no effort in me, no stress in me to try and control any situation that I'm going to find myself in that day.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't have to try and convince anyone in a meeting of certain outcome that I want, because he's in control. I've already given everything, telling that whatever needs to happen there is going to happen because he's in control. I'm just going to be present.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. The interesting thing,
So,
yeah. Well,
so the freedom that comes with that is just phenomenal. And my ability now to be present when I spend time with my kids, present when I'm with my wife, present when I'm with you now, is just phenomenal. And therefore the experience you have of me and from me is just completely different, because you experience I'm completely present. I'm here with you, nowhere else. Not thinking about any other work meeting or whatever the case may be. I'm here because the rest is still to come, or what has already happened, I've already given over to him and he's in control. And I know it, and I believe it with my whole heart.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really interesting. Yeah, that you're, because that was for me the contrast, that you were so excitedly talking, and then the contrast with this firmness, or this urgency of Jesus Almighty saying like, hey, you wouldn't make it, right? So, and then and that in contrast to the joy you beam out, you
Oh,
represent.
yes, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me. Yeah.
It's true. It's it's very, I can only say it's liberating. The freedom that I experience now within my being, because of having surrendered completely, and not saying I've surrendered, but truly I've surrendered, knowing that he is in control and I believe it with my whole heart, is just something that you can't explain to anyone.
No.
I can't explain to anyone what it feels like to have an experience of just a glimpse of his, because I only had experience a glimpse of his almightiness. You'll never be able to understand his entire almightiness. I just had a glimpse of it, a taste of a glimpse of it. And man, it is, I tell people, you know, a lot of us are so quick as Christians to say, man, I would just love to meet Jesus. Believe me, you don't. If you want to, you need to make sure that you're ready for that, man. No. It is like I told my wife, it was the darkest places I've been in my entire life. Don't ever want that again, ever. But yet now, where I'm at is just, yeah, like you said, you can experience it from me.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. There's so many thoughts going through my mind now. I don't know how much time you have left, or you had.
I'm good. I'm good for time. I'm good for time, Patrick.
So the interesting in the Netherlands is that you have this whole range of churches, denominations actually.
Yeah.
And they're from very strict to very charismatic and evangelical.
The same year in South Africa. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was wondering, because now I work for this Christian information platform. You get this whole range where you make news of, where you get information from, and I'm from a Pentecostal church.
Okay.
Where they wave with flags and are very, very happy. But I always am really interested about the strictness of this more reformed churches that are really they're more sober, they're more in black outfits, they go to church, but they are really emphasizing on this holiness and this mightiness of God. And that's where I really think we in churches that are Pentecostal, sometimes we forget that holiness, or that I would love to hear from you, like, but I don't think you're going to give me that answer, but which denomination is best, or like something in the
Well, I can give you that answer straight off. Jesus doesn't care about any denomination. He cares about your heart, Patrick. It's that simple. He never designed denominations. He didn't create it. Us as human beings, we created it. We made the rules. All he ever cared about, even when Jesus was here on earth, all he ever cared about was your heart.
Yeah.
And for you to trust him, believe him in his almightiness, and that he's in control, and for you to submit your life to him, and by submitting to him, you get eternal life.
Yeah.
And to live with that heart of total attitude of obedience towards him, and from that place you get the freedom, you get life, you get peace. That's where it comes from, but it only comes from that place of true attitude of true obedience to him. But you can only get that attitude of true obedience if you truly believe Jesus is who he said he is, that he's almighty, and that he can do what he said he will do.
Yeah.
If you truly believe that, not just saying yes, no, I believe it. No. If you truly in your heart believe that, if he tells you today to sell your house and give it, not sell your house, just to give your house away to someone else. If he tells you that today, will you do it?
Well,
I know we could say, yes, I will, but no. Will you really? Only, remember he said, only you will know your true heart. No one else will. So I can't judge you. I can't ever tell you where you are. I don't know. Only you know your true heart with him. And he knows. But we've become masters of self-deceit as well. The majority of the time, we don't even have the ability to be honest with ourselves about our true intentions of our heart, our true attitude.
Yeah, that makes it so sometimes, yeah, your blind spots are called blind spots. So it's so difficult to like illuminate them. Do you have maybe some?
But you don't have to, Patrick. You don't have to. He will. That's what the Holy Spirit does. If you truly ask him to do that, he will. The question is, are you then willing to listen? Because if you hear what you want to hear, then you say, oh, Jesus Almighty, that's awesome. I agree with you, man, that's spot on. The minute you hear something you don't, oh, no, it's... So that's the big question. Are you actually willing
to
hear?
That's the thing. Yeah. Wow.
Isn't it just?
Yeah. Oh, that's some food for thought as well. Yeah.
And I was a stubborn man, and now I see through the lens of what he went to in order to get my attention. And I'm grateful for it. Was it tough? I don't wish it upon anyone ever to go through what I did in hospital. I mean, I saw people die around me in ICU, having to deal with that, how I had to fight for every single breath, constantly without sleeping for weeks, not seeing my family for 2 months. My 2 boys, when I got home, my youngest boy didn't even recognize me.
Whoa.
And before going to hospital, I was his hero.
How old is he?
2. So there was a lot of healing that needed to take place as well, but with my 2 boys and their hearts, still today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been quite a journey.
Wow. Yeah, man, you can say that again. It's amazing.
So I'm just at the place, whatever opportunity I get to now speak into people's lives, that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Even more so than ever before, because I just know how important this is. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks. I would like to close the interview up with the question, if you could pray for me and my heart, and if I will have the right mindset and heart to work at this and to tell the story as well.
Absolutely. Oh, Jesus Almighty, I just thank you for this opportunity. And I believe it was with your perfect design that you've allowed this to take place, and for me to sit in this time with Patrick. And thank you that you've opened his heart to hear your words, and for those words to make an impression on his life so that he will be moved by what he needs to share, so that what he shares can speak into the lives of your children and people that need to hear your message, your truth. And Jesus, I just pray that Patrick will somehow just get a glimpse of your almightiness and experience of that, so that his eyes will be opened for who you are and be led by you in everything that he does, and for his life to be a life that is walked on that narrow path in your shoes, your feet, in your light. And for his words, his actions to inspire people around him to meet you and get to know you better. And we just glorify you in all of this, Jesus. And we believe that with what I've shared with Patrick and what Patrick's going to share with the rest of his network of people and audience, that you will get the glory, Jesus, no one else. Because that's where the glory lies. And we thank you for that now in Jesus' almighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, it's great.
Patrick, if you need anything else from me, when any questions come up while you're doing this or doing what you're going to do or need to do, please drop me a mail, drop me a WhatsApp, whatever you need to do. Happy to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the pictures already. And do you also want to check my story before, or do you say like publish it?
Well, if it's going to if it's not going to be in English, then I guess there's not much point sending it to me, because I will not be able to help you much. But when you do launch it, yes, I would love to have the link to it, and yeah, I'll appreciate that, absolutely.
Yeah, I will send it to you when it's ready. So
awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much again, and yeah, Jan, amazing story. Yeah, God bless with everything you do and in your teachings to people and your leadership.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. If I can maybe ask you a favor, I know you've recorded this. Would you mind sending this recording to me, Patrick?
Oh, yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, I will.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great stuff, man. I'll appreciate that.
Yes.
So nice talking to you. Thanks for the time, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll keep in touch then.
I look forward to that. Very much so. All right.
Great. Have a nice day, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Same to you, Patrick. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.